Hello, Mr. McCarthy here, and I'm back to read you another piece of children's literature that aligns with the 7 habits of happy kids that we teach. This book is written by Sean Covey and illustrated by Stacy Curtis. I'm not reading this today. I will be reading this story to you soon. As you know, we've been focusing on other stories that align with the 7 habits. So last week I read you a story that aligns with habit 5. Habit 5 is seek first to understand, then to be understood. So I love this habit so much. It is really critical to me that we are thinking about others all the time, especially right now during this COVID-19 pandemic. I think that we need to have our thoughts not only on ourselves, but on others and the role we play in community. So I've decided to read another story that aligns with habit 5. This story is The True Story of the 3 Little Pigs by A. Wolfe. Now this is told by John Seska and illustrated by Dean Smith. The True Story of the 3 Little Pigs. Let's check it out. The True Story of the 3 Little Pigs by A. Wolfe. Everybody knows the story of the 3 little pigs, or at least they think they do. But I'll let you in on a little secret. Nobody knows the real story because nobody has ever heard my side of the story. It's a pretty intriguing open, isn't it? I'm the wolf, Alexander T. Wolf. You can call me Al. I don't know how this whole big bad wolf thing got started, but it's all wrong. Maybe it's because of our diet. Hey, it's not my fault. Wolves eat cute little animals like bunnies and sheep and pigs. That's just the way we are. If cheeseburgers were cute, folks would probably think you were big and bad too. That's something to think about, isn't it? But like I was saying, the whole big bad wolf thing is all wrong. The real story is about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. This is the real story. Way back in Once Upon a Time, I was making a birthday cake for my dear old granny. I had a terrible sneezing cold. I ran out of sugar. Well, there's Granny right there in bed. Wonder what she's doing there. So I walked down the street to ask my neighbor for a cup of sugar. Now, this neighbor was a pig. And he wasn't too bright either. He had built his whole house out of straw. Can you believe it? I mean, who in his right mind would build a house of straw? So, of course, the minute I knocked on the door, it fell right in. I didn't want to just walk into someone else's house, so I called, "Little pig, little pig, are you in?" No answer. I was just about to go home without the cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. That's when my nose started to itch. I felt a sneeze coming on. Well, I huffed and I snuffed. Wonder what's going to happen next. And I sneezed a great sneeze. And you know what? That whole darn straw house fell down, and right in the middle of the pile of straw was the first little pig, dead as a doornail. He had been home the whole time. It seemed like a shame to leave a perfectly good ham dinner lying there in the straw, so I ate it up. Think of it as big cheeseburger, just lying there. I like cheeseburgers. I was feeling a little better, but I still didn't have my cup of sugar, so I went to the next neighbor's house. The neighbor was the first little pig's brother. He was a little smarter, but not much. He had built his house out of sticks. I rang the bell on the stick house. Nobody answered. I called, "Mr. Pig, Mr. Pig, are you in?" He yelled back, "Go away, wolf. You can't come in. I'm shaving the hairs on my chinny chin chin." And there he is shaving. I had just grabbed the doorknob when I felt another sneeze coming on. I huffed and I snuffed and I tried to cover my mouth, but I sneezed a great sneeze. And you're not going to believe it, but this guy's house fell down just like his brother's. When the dust cleared, there was the second little pig, dead as a doornail. Wolf's honor. Oh, look at that. There's an end made of sausages. Now you know food will spoil if you just leave it out in the open. So I did the only thing there was to do. I had dinner again. Think of it as a second helping. I was getting awfully full, but my cold was feeling a little better. And I still didn't have that cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. So I went to the next house. This guy was the first and second little pig's brother. He must have been the brains of the family. He had built his house out of bricks. I knocked on the brick house. No answer. I called, "Mr. Pig, Mr. Pig, are you in?" And do you know what that rude little poker answered? That rude little porker, excuse me. "Get out of here, wolf. Don't bother me again." Not very neighborly. Talk about impolite. He probably had a whole sack full of sugar, and he wouldn't give me even one little cup for my dear sweet old granny's birthday cake. What a pig. I was just about to go home and maybe make a nice birthday card instead of a cake when I felt my cold coming on. I huffed and I snuffed and I sneezed once again. Then the third little pig yelled, "And your old granny can sit on a pin." Look at him. Now, I'm usually a pretty calm fellow, but when somebody talks about my granny like that, I go a little crazy. When the cops drove up, of course, I was trying to break down the pig's door. And the whole time I was huffing and puffing and sneezing and making a real scene. The rest, as they say, is history. The news reporters found out about the two pigs I had for dinner. They figured a sick guy going to borrow a cup of sugar didn't sound very exciting. So they jazzed up the story with all of that huff and puff and blow your house down. And they made me the big bad wolf. That's it. The real story. I was framed. But maybe you could loan me a cup of sugar. Now that is an interesting story. That is a really cool, I like the artwork. It has almost a collage effect. And it is a very interesting way to think about how different characters in different stories. And the reason I mentioned Granny earlier, that Granny is sometimes in other stories, isn't she? She looks like she might have been playing a role in Little Red Riding Hood as well. So it's interesting to think about how other people may have a different viewpoint on what's happening. Actually, there's a phrase that I have used numerous times. There are three sides to every story. There's his side, there's her side, and then there's the truth, which is right in the middle somewhere. So it's important to think about how other people have a different perspective on what's going on than you may, and that sometimes it's possible to come up with a solution that benefits everyone. And like I said earlier, all of these habits, I think I said it earlier, all of these habits kind of overlap each other. And so 5 leads into 6, which is synergize. You know, we need to have other people's ideas, opinions. We need to understand other people if we're going to work together with them and collaborate for the greater good, right? So coming up soon, we're going to have a story that'll link to habit 6. Keep these things in mind as you are at home with family. And, you know, even as you go out, hopefully you're going out in a limited capacity. So when you go out, you need to think about other people, right? Thank you. Take care, guys.